You're exhausted, but not just tired. You wake up drained, go through the day in a fog, and by the evening, you're still running on empty. No motivation, no joy, just numbness. If you've been wondering, am I just burned out, or is this something deeper? You're not alone, and you don't have to figure it out by yourself. Let's talk honestly about the difference between burnout and depression, and how to know when it's time to reach out for help. Hi, I'm Morgan Bougourd, a therapist at the Center for Intimacy, Connection, and Change. At CICC, we support people navigating stress, mental fatigue, depression, and relationship struggles, and help them to reconnect with themselves and the people that they care about. If you've been stuck in low energy, overwhelmed, or feel like you've lost access to your motivation and joy, this video will help you make sense of what's going on. Because knowing what you are up against is the first step towards getting support. Burnout and depression can feel strikingly similar on the surface, but they don't always have the same root cause, and that difference matters. If you've been trying to just push through without really understanding what's happening to you, you may actually be making things worse. Burnout usually develops when the demands on you outweigh the resources you have to cope, and it comes from chronic stress. Too much giving, too little rest, too much pressure, and not nearly enough support. You may feel wrung out, exhausted, and detached, but at the same time, you still want to care, to keep going, to show up. Depression, on the other hand, runs deeper than stress. It's not just about workload. It's about how you feel in your mind, body, and heart. It can affect the way you think, the way you relate to the world, and even how you see yourself. Activities you used to love suddenly feel meaningless. Life feels heavy in a way that rest alone doesn't fix. And that's why this question matters. Burnout and depression aren't the same thing. But if you confuse the two, you might treat the wrong problem. Now let's break this down and look at what each one actually looks like in real life. Burnout often creeps in slowly, almost unnoticed at first. It tends to look like constant fatigue, even after what should have been a good night of sleep. You wake up tired, you drag yourself through the day, and you feel like your energy never truly recharges. Irritability is common too. Things that used to fall off your back now set you off, or worse, you feel emotionally numb. Like you just don't have the capacity to care anymore. Small tasks that should be easy suddenly feel overwhelming, as if you're carrying a heavy backpack everywhere you go. You may also notice physical symptoms like headaches, muscle tension, stomach problems, or the sense of always being on edge. Emotionally, burnout shows up as cynicism or disconnection, especially at work, but it can also spill into your home life. You may hear yourself thinking, no matter how much I do, it's never enough. And the defining feature of burnout is this. Deep down, you still want to feel better, to reconnect, to care, but you can't seem to catch your breath long enough to make it happen. Depression, on the other hand, often feels heavier, more pervasive. It's not just about work or stress. It colors your entire experience. For many, depression looks like a low mood most of the day, nearly every day. Even when nothing obvious has gone wrong, you lose interest in things you once enjoyed, hobbies, friendships, even food or intimacy. Sleep may become disrupted. You're either lying awake at night with racing thoughts or sleeping far more than usual, and still waking up exhausted. Appetite shifts are common too, eating too little or too much, almost as if your body no longer knows what it needs. Depression often brings feelings of worthlessness, guilt, or hopelessness. Thoughts like, I don't matter, or nothing will ever change. Some people struggle with concentration and decision-making, feeling like even small choices are overwhelming. And here's something important. Depression doesn't always feel like sadness. Sometimes it feels like flatness, like you're underwater, moving through life in slow motion. You're not necessarily crying all the time. You just feel disconnected, heavy, and numb. Here's where things get tricky. Burnout and depression can overlap in ways that make them hard to tell apart. Both can leave you feeling empty, isolated and detached from yourself. Both can bring exhaustion, low motivation, and disconnection from the people and the activities that you care about. In fact, sometimes long-term, unaddressed burnout can actually slide into depression. And sometimes depression presents in ways that look like burnout, especially when fatigue and lack of motivation are the main symptoms. That's why it's important not to try to self-diagnose or dismiss what you are feeling. If you've been feeling this way for more than 2 weeks, it's worth reaching out for help, because while they overlap, the way you heal from burnout and the way you heal from depression can look very different. So, when should you reach out for support? Well, there are a few clear signals that it's time to talk to a professional, and none of them are reasons to feel ashamed. Start with the basics. If you can't remember the last time you felt okay, not just a good day here and there, but a stretch of days where you felt connected, energized, and able to enjoy things, that's a sign something important is happening. If you're having trouble getting out of bed, finishing work tasks, paying attention to your kids, or showing up in the relationships that matter most to you, that's a functioning red flag. These aren't just bad weeks. They are patterns that often need more than the willpower to change. Notice how you relate to people. If you feel emotionally disconnected, even when you're physically with loved ones, if conversations feel flat, or you catch yourself withdrawing, snapping, or lying about how you really feel, that disconnection deserves care. If you find yourself increasingly irritable, cynical, or numb, or if small problems feel impossible to manage, those are important signals too. There are also more urgent signs that require immediate attention. If you feel guilty for needing rest, but can't actually rest, if your sleep or appetite has shifted dramatically, or if you start having persistent thoughts about not wanting to be here or wishing you could just disappear, you should reach out right away. Those thoughts are serious, and they're not something that you need to hold alone. What does reaching out look like in practice? Well, it can be one small step. Call your primary care doctor and say that you've been feeling persistently low or exhausted. Use an employee assistance program if your job offers one. Send a message or schedule a free consult with a therapist, because many practices, including ours, offer brief intake calls specifically to help you figure out next steps. Tell one trusted person that things feel harder than usual, and ask for practical support, an appointment reminder, help with childcare, or simply to sit with you while you make the call. If you ever feel like you might act on thoughts of self-harm, please get immediate help. Go to your nearest emergency room, call emergency services, or contact your local crisis line. If you're in the US, calling or texting 988 connects you to the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline for immediate support. If you are outside the US, reach out to local emergency services or a crisis resource in your area. You do not have to manage this alone. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. In fact, it's one of the bravest decisions that you can make for yourself and for the people who love you. It stops the cycle of carrying everything alone and opens the door to support, clarity, and real healing. If anything above resonates, please consider reaching out to someone today, whether that's booking a consult, calling your doctor, or telling one person you can trust. Therapy helps by slowing down the process so that you can see what's really going on, not just at the surface, but underneath. Together, you and a therapist can explore the sources of your stress, the expectations you've been under, and the thoughts that keep spiraling. Therapy also gives you a safe place to talk about the parts of yourself that feel tired, ashamed, or invisible. And through the process, you learn practical tools, how to set boundaries without guilt, how to recognize your own needs, and how to rebuild from a place of clarity instead of constant pressure. Therapy also helps you reconnect with the parts of life that feel meaningful, so you're not just surviving, but beginning to feel alive again. You don't have to stay stuck in survival mode. Whether you're dealing with burnout, depression, or a mix of both, healing is possible when you don't face it alone. Now remember, burnout is real, depression is real. And so if you need rest, support, and healing, and if any of this sounded familiar, don't wait. Talk to someone who can help you figure out what's going on and what might help At CICC, we support clients across Maryland, online and in person, who are navigating burnout, depression, and emotional exhaustion. You don't have to keep pretending like you're fine, and you don't have to fix it alone. Visit centericc.com to learn more or to schedule a free 15-minute consultation. Let's help you feel like yourself again.